Hi everyone, my name is Audrey and welcome to my studio. First of all, I'm really glad that you're seeing my new space. If you didn't know, I recently got married. And since my studio was originally in the master bedroom, I had to move all of my stuff out of there and then move into a smaller bedroom. I'm still really loving my space. I tried to cram in as much as I could in this small room. I think the less space you have, the more creative you have to be. Anyway, with that said, I'm really happy to be filming in this new space. And let's get going with today's topic, my 10 favorite watercolor colors. In this video, I want to share a couple things. First, why I have favorite colors. And second, as I go through each color, I want to explain why they're my favorite. Now, I have used several different brands in my watercolor journey, but for the last couple of years, I've been using the Lukas brand exclusively. I had a 20 or 24 set before, and then I was recently given this giant 48 color one. I love it. And you can check out my other video that unboxes it and then shows you how I labeled each of my colors, swatches, etc. But since I've been using watercolors for a while, some of the colors that I used even in my original sets at the beginning of my journey, I still use today. And so those colors are definitely included in my top 10. And then I have some other favorites that I have as well. For paper, I'm going to be using this Stonehenge watercolor paper, and this is actually a watercolor block. So that just means that it's taped or glued on all four sides except for a tiny little part. And once I'm done with the paper, then I'm going to use like a butter knife or an envelope knife to, take apart the glue and then peel off the papers. And for brushes, I love a good round brush. And I've been using the Creative Mark brand from Jerry's Artarama quite often. And I was recently given this travel set. And these are the same type as these brushes. These are the Mimik Squirrel synthetic round brushes. And I have a couple different sizes. This is a 10, I think I have a 6 and a 2. And so this cute little travel set has 5 brushes, 1 flat, and I believe it's a 1/4 inch flat. And then there are 4 round brushes, my favorite. So there's a size 2, a size 4, a size 6, and a size 8. For today, I'm probably going to use primarily the size 6. So let me go ahead and just pop that out of there, close up the case, and then put it away. So this comes in a compact way like this. You just kind of pull it out and then pop it back in. And now it's a short handle watercolor brush. I kind of like that the information and the brand is actually written or like embossed on this metal handle, because sometimes on a regular watercolor brush, sometimes they start fading over time because you use them often, you wash them. So I kind of like that this embossing isn't going to disappear that easily, or if at all. And of course, I have a jar of water and some paper towel to blot my brush. So first I want to explain why I have favorite colors. You might be thinking, Audrey, you have so many colors, how can you choose? Well, the easiest answer is this. I think once you start developing your style, you start to realize and gravitate towards certain colors that fit your scheme, your flavor, your preferences, whatever you want to call it. Because I paint mostly florals, I love bright reds and yellows because I can easily use those to mix other bright colors. I also love a good variety in my greens, but there are 2 in particular that I use quite often. I don't use blue as much in my paintings, but I have it included in my top 10 because I use it to mix other colors. And blue is a primary color, so it's important to have that in your main palette. Now, this list of 10 does not mean that you have to have the same exact colors. They're just colors that I gravitate towards, and I think that it might be a good place for you to start if you're a beginner. I think beginners get a little overwhelmed when they have too many colors, so actually having less choices will help you be a better artist because it'll force you to learn color theory by learning how to mix colors properly, and you'll really get to know the properties of your watercolor paints. Okay, so here are my 10 favorite colors in no particular order. I'm gonna just follow kind of like the rainbow scheme. Here we go. I'm just gonna wet my paints with a spray bottle. And the first color that we're gonna look at is Alizarin Crimson. Just using a semi-damp brush and getting the full value of the paint. And then washing out my brush little by little, just so you can see the full, full range of value for this pink color. I love the Alizarin Crimson because it's a cool primary color. I personally don't like the warmer reds, and I think I prefer the cooler red because I use a lot of warmer greens, and so having that cool flowers and cool tone in the flowers and then the warm tone in the leaves really brings out the color harmony in my paintings. Next up, we have Genuine Rose. And I know what you're probably thinking. Why don't you just water down your alizarin crimson and you have a pink color? And I won't disagree, you are correct, but I think I like the semi-transparency of the Genuine Rose. Because if I were to water down my alizarin crimson, it's going to be a very light value and it's just too transparent. So if I really wanted my pink flowers to really pop, then I want to use a single pigment, paint color like this. Okay, next up we have Permanent Orange. I love this orange. It's like the color of sunset. And again, I know orange is a secondary color, so I could just mix my colors to get orange. But when you're painting flowers, sometimes you just need to grab the most convenient colors. And so this orange is super bright. I like mixing it with the alizarin crimson to get an even brighter color. The next two are the yellows. This is the lemon yellow. I love how bright this is. I mean, just look at this. What I noticed in my swatching video is that the lemon yellow is actually kind of hard to wash out. So you have to be careful not to go too overboard with it. Lemon yellow is also on the cooler side of the primary colors. And again, for the same reason that I chose alizarin crimson and not a warmer red, is just because I use warmer greens. Next up, we have yellow ochre. And this was a color that I kind of fell in love with when I first started watercoloring. It was in my original set, along with a yellow, bright lemon yellow kind of color too. But I really liked yellow ochre, again, for its semi-transparency. And I loved using it for details on flowers like the stamen. I felt like I could put this yellow ochre like on top of the alizarin crimson or something and still be able to see it. I love these Lukas brand paints because I don't know if you can tell as I'm painting with them. They're just very soft and creamy in texture. And if you look very closely, they're not grainy at all. All right, we're halfway there. Okay, next we have Sap Green. Sap Green was another one that I just really fell in love with when I first got my colors. I liked that I didn't have to separately mix yellow and blue in order to get sap green. I also loved mixing this color with a burnt umber so that I could get like a nice forest green color. So yeah, sap green, love it. Next, Chromium Oxide Green. This was probably a new color that I hadn't used until I got my Lukas set. And then ever since then, I've been using it to death. Just look at this opacity. Oh my gosh. It's almost like you're painting with gouache. Almost. I love how it just fades out really easily. And again, even with that great opacity, it still doesn't look like grainy or anything. Okay, just a couple more. We have ultramarine blue next. And this is obviously a very classic blue. It's included in almost every beginner's palette. And again, I don't use ultramarine blue as much in my paintings, but I do love it to mix. So I love it when I mix that and the genuine rose, because you get a beautiful like lavender kind of color. Or when you mix this ultramarine blue with the alizarin crimson, you get like a deep purple color. All right, my favorite earthy color, if I had to just choose one, would be the burnt umber. Oh, love how creamy that is. Look at that. Really great. I think I use burnt umber for so many details, not just like branches and stuff, but I like to mix that with other colors to also make, you know, dynamic gray. So like if I mix this with the ultramarine blue, I'll get a really deep gray color. And sometimes I mix in a little bit of the alizarin crimson into my burnt umber to get like a slightly more like closer to black kind of color. All right, and last but not least, Payne's gray. And this was definitely a color I fell in love with very early on in my journey. Oopsies, that one's black. I'm so sorry. This is Payne's gray. Anyway, so Payne's gray was definitely a color that I fell in love with early on. I liked that it actually wasn't black, and because of its cool tone, I used this for a lot of my black details in my paintings rather than using straight up black. Just gonna put a little X by this one so that you know that's not included in my top 10. And there you have it. These are my top 10 favorite watercolor colors. Now that's not to say I won't have any future favorites. So maybe check back in another year or two and maybe I will have expanded this list, or maybe I will have replaced some of these colors. Who knows? Like I said in the beginning, it really depends on, you know, your style and what you like to paint. Some people love the neutral palette, and that's okay. Some people only love bright and bold colors, and that's all right too. Maybe you love pastel colors. Whatever it is, you know, it needs to just reflect who you are as an artist. But if you're a beginner and you're not sure where to start, then I do believe that these 10 will get you started off on the right foot. Thanks again so much for joining me. I hope you learned something new. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell for notifications. Push like on this video if you want to see more content like this, and leave a comment below to tell me, you know, which one was your favorite color, and do you have a favorite color that's not on my list? I'd love to hear from you. If you're curious about mixing colors, I do have a class on how to mix watercolor grays, and you can paint this super cute cat with me. And I hope you'll check out my other tutorials that uses these 10 colors over and over again. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Happy painting!